Interns don't drink coffee here. Then he poured the whole cup on her head. Not a drop, not a splash. A full 12 ounces of dark roast straight down onto her scalp. Hot, bitter, public. The hallway froze. Then, a chuckle. Somewhere near the elevator. He didn't whisper, didn't hide. Craig Lennox, SVP of Strategy, stood smirking with his now empty mug. "Welcome to the top floor," he said. Coffee soaked her curls. Steam rose from her shoulders. Her blouse clung to her back like wet paper. Maya didn't move. He wanted a scene. She gave him silence. Her fingers curled around the lanyard at her waist, not in shame and calculation. They thought she was just another intern. That was their first mistake. "Before we go deeper, I need to know. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or state in the comments. Because if you've ever been publicly disrespected and kept your head high anyway, this one's for you. If you believe some storms walk in quietly tap-like. Now let's get back to Maya." She walked straight past the gasps, the whispers, the frozen stares. Into the restroom, into the stall. Locked the door. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She folded her soaked blazer neatly, placed it on the toilet tank, and stood in silence, coffee dripping to the tile. Then she exhaled. Not pain, not shame. Focus. She had waited 3 weeks for the right moment, and Craig Lennox had just handed it to her. Maya Carter, age 26, graduate of MIT, daughter of Simone Carter, the woman who built Carter Global from a kitchen table and 3 credit cards. And right now, Simone was in a hospital bed, recovering from a stroke. The board had promised to hold things steady. They lied. Since Simone's leave of absence, the women's mentorship program, cut. Community outreach budget, gutted. The janitorial team, outsourced and underpaid. But bonuses for senior execs, up 22%. And the man who dumped coffee on her, Craig Lennox, just approved a $130,000 budget line titled Executive Lifestyle Incentives. She had the documents. Emails, spreadsheets, voice memos. She just needed one final push. Now, she had it. 9:43 a.m. Top floor, boardroom. Maya entered without knocking. Coffee still stained her collar, her curls still damp. The room hushed. 10 men, 1 woman, Armani suits and filtered water. She walked to the center of the table, placed a thin folder down, and looked Craig Lennox in the eye. "Before we begin," she said, "I want to clarify one thing." He smirked again. She reached up, unclipped her badge, and turned it around. The room leaned in. Maya Carter. No aliases, no borrowed name. Just the daughter of the founder. Just the heir to the company. Craig's smirk slipped. The CEO's daughter? The intern? No one moved. No one spoke. Maya tapped the folder. Page 2, 3rd line item. Craig opened it. His face dropped. Line 3. $130,000 Craig Lennox. Discretionary travel plus luxury stipend. Signed. Approved. Hidden. She turned to the board. "My mother gave you trust. You gave her betrayal." She pointed to Craig. "Effective immediately, he's terminated. HR has his file. Security's outside." Craig jumped up. "You don't have authority. I have legacy." 2 security officers appeared at the door. Nobody said a word. As Craig was escorted out, Maya faced the room. "This company forgot who built it. I'm here to remind you." Craig Lennox was gone. The door clicked shut behind him, but the silence didn't leave with him. It settled into the corners of the boardroom, thick and stifling. No one moved. No one even reached for the filtered water. Maya stood alone at the head of the table. Her blouse was still stained with coffee. The air still carried the faint smell of scorched bitterness. But her spine? Straight. Unshaken. She let the silence stretch. Let them sit in it. Then, calmly, she slid a second folder across the glossy oak. "This one," she said, "is for the rest of you." The CFO, a pale man with thin hair and a trembling pen, leaned forward. The folder was thicker than the last, labeled in black marker, Q3, Internal Audit, Unauthorized Modifications. Inside, ghost vendors, duplicate expense accounts, inflated invoices signed off by people who no longer worked at the company, and a trail that led straight to senior leadership. Maya didn't raise her voice. She didn't point fingers. She just looked, from one face to the next. Her gaze didn't shake. "You have 48 hours," she said, "to return the funds, or I go public." A woman at the end of the table, VP of Legal, finally found her voice. "You're not CEO." "No," Maya replied. "But I don't need to be CEO to blow the whistle. I just need a press contact and a conscience." That night, the lights on floor 47 burned late. Maya sat alone in her mother's office, untouched since Simone's stroke. The air smelled like vanilla and old books. A family photo sat crooked on the shelf. She didn't touch it. Her hands were busy. Emails, legal review, data cross-checking, a flowchart of who knew what and when. She didn't eat, didn't rest, didn't need to, because anger, when quiet, becomes precision. At 12:17 a.m., her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She answered on the third ring. "Maya Carter?" "Yes. This is Thomas Reyes, facilities manager. You asked me to check if the daycare shutdown last quarter was for budget reasons." "Yes?" "It wasn't. There was no budget issue. The VP of Finance's sister-in-law wanted to convert the space into a private wellness suite." Maya's jaw clenched. "Did you document this?" "I did. Got the internal memo. And photos. Sending now." "Mr. Reyes?" "Yes?" "Thank you." He paused. "Your mother. She was the only one who knew my kid's name. Every time. Just thought you should know." She hung up softly, looked around the dark office. The weight of her mother's absence pressed against the windows. Then she opened her inbox. One new message. Subject, whistleblower coverage request. From newsdesk at citypulse.org. "We'll run it. We'll protect your identity. But if you're coming forward as Carter's daughter, we'll want a statement." Maya didn't respond. Not yet. She needed one more thing. The next morning, she arrived early. 6:45 a.m. The lobby was quiet, the espresso bar still closed. She took the executive elevator up alone. When the doors opened, someone was already waiting. Not security. Not a board member. It was Veronica Kim, her mother's longtime executive assistant. Tough, graceful, with eyes that saw through everything. "You made waves," Veronica said flatly. Maya nodded. "They'll come for me." "Already are," Veronica replied. "Legal's reviewing your access. HR's freezing your badge. They think I'll walk. Will you?" Maya looked down at her badge, still clipped to her belt, still reading Maya Carter. "Number." Veronica's face softened, just slightly. "Then you'll need this," she said, sliding a keycard across the desk. "It opens the private archive room, 4th floor. Your mother kept the real files there, the kind no one could scrub." Maya blinked. "Why are you helping me?" "Because I've seen what this place becomes without her." "Oh." She turned to leave, then stopped. "And because she told me, if anything ever happened, I was to help you. No questions." The archive room was cold. Metal shelves, locked drawers, dust-covered binders. Maya moved with care. She knew what she was looking for. The document was dated 6 months ago. A signed directive from Simone Carter. "Do not authorize discretionary bonuses exceeding 5% without board review. No exceptions." Below it, a second sheet, a forged override, Craig's signature, and 3 others. That was it. The final nail. She scanned, saved, encrypted. Then she called the newsroom. At 2:14 p.m., her phone rang again. Private line. "Maya Carter?" "Speaking. This is Diane Jules, chair of the compensation committee. Can we meet?" Maya glanced at the time. Now. 10 minutes later, they sat across from each other. Diane looked tired, older than she had the day before. "You're burning the building down." "No," Maya replied. "I'm cutting out the infection. You know this could backfire. They'll paint you as emotional, vengeful, nepotistic. They can try." Diane nodded slowly. "Your mother was my mentor," she said. "If this company still has a soul, it's because she built one." Then she leaned in. "I'll back your vote to remove the 3 executives tied to the forged override, but you'll need 5 signatures total." "I already have 2. Diane raised an eyebrow. "Who?" Maya didn't answer, just stood up, folder in hand. As she left the room, her phone buzzed again. Another anonymous tip, another string to pull. She didn't smile, didn't speak, but her stride was faster now, more focused, because this wasn't revenge. This was reclamation. The backlash came faster than expected. By 9:17 a.m., Maya's email credentials had been suspended. By 9:32, her access to the executive printer queue vanished. By 9:44, 3 internal memos had circulated from legal, casting doubt on the validity of her audit files. And by 10 a.m., a formal complaint was filed against her for misconduct, unauthorized access, and creating a hostile work environment. The timing wasn't coincidence. It was orchestration, and Maya knew exactly where it was coming from. She sat in her mother's office, door locked, lights off. A half-eaten protein bar sat on the desk beside a stack of paper. Her phone buzzed again. "Veronica, you need to leave that office. Now, they're trying to force an emergency vote to revoke your board privileges. They're using the whistleblower threat as leverage." Maya replied with a single word. "Let them." She'd expected this, anticipated it. Still it stung. The same floor that once applauded her mother's every keynote now moved like a machine trying to erase her. She looked around the office. The shelves, the family photo, still crooked, and then her mother's old leather journal, left open, page dog-eared. Her mother's handwriting. "They will always try to scare you before they try to stop you." 11:03 a.m. 4th floor. Archive room. Diane Jules stood waiting. She didn't speak right away. She handed Maya a manila envelope, sealed, no label. "These were my notes from the last closed-door session Simone held before her stroke," Diane said. She knew something was coming. Maya opened it. A list of names, some crossed out, some circled. At the top, Craig Lennox. Underneath, Philip Marsh, Chief Legal Officer. Tanya Rivera, VP Operations. Elliot Graves, Board Chair. Maya's breath caught. "They were trying to push her out?" she asked. Diane nodded slowly. "And when the stroke happened, they moved fast." Maya folded the envelope. This wasn't just about budgets anymore. This was a quiet coup. 1:11 p.m. Lobby, Carter Global. Reporters gathered outside. Word had leaked. Someone was feeding City Pulse anonymously. Maya hadn't gone public yet, but someone inside was talking. She suspected Diane, or maybe Veronica. Didn't matter. The truth had momentum now, but the board wasn't backing down. They'd scheduled a closed session at 2 p.m. Emergency vote. The motion? Strip Maya Carter of her interim rights and launch a character review. Character. They were going to bury her under the same playbook they'd used on her mother. She's emotional. She's unstable. She's using her last name. Maya smiled bitterly. She wasn't going to win by playing clean. She needed to play smart. 1:37 p.m. Veronica met her outside the executive conference room. "They've locked out your badge," she whispered. "You won't be able to get in." "I don't need the badge," Maya said. She opened her laptop, connected to the guest Wi-Fi, and launched a shared livestream link. 3 reporters were watching. So were over 400 anonymous viewers. She tapped record, then handed the laptop to Veronica. "If they shut me out," Maya said, "start the stream." Veronica nodded. Maya slipped into the side corridor toward the service elevator. 2:01 p.m. Emergency session begins. Inside, the board sat in silence. Elliot Graves, board chair, called the meeting to order. First motion: to suspend Maya Carter's interim access and halt her whistleblower activity pending internal investigation. A few nods, one stifled yawn. Elliot looked around. All in favor? Hands went up slowly, one by one. 6, then 7. Until a voice from the back. "I object." Heads turned. Maya stepped forward, hair pulled back, coffee stains gone, eyes sharp. "I believe I'm still protected under Section 8 of the corporate bylaws as a board. Designated proxy during the CEO's incapacitation." Elliot's lip curled. "Miss Carter, this is a closed." "Then why is City Pulse watching?" Veronica stepped into view, holding the open laptop. The live stream was on. Real time. Boardroom, faces, votes, everything. Elliot's face turned white. "Turn that off." "No," Maya said. "You turn off the lies." She opened her folder. Displayed forged overrides, confidential memos, voice recordings of executives mocking budget cuts as optics moves. And then she played the final audio. Craig Lennox's voice. "We just have to hold her off long enough to cash the Q4 bonuses. Then she'll be gone." Silence. Not even the air moved. Diana stood. I call for a counter-motion, she said. Immediate termination of any executive link to the override fraud, and reinstatement of Maya Carter as acting oversight chair. 2 more stood behind her. Then a third. The tide was shifting. Elliot tried to speak, but no one listened. Because outside, the viewers were climbing. Over 12,000. Inside, the myth of the untouchable board was crumbling. And in the middle of it all, Maya stood still. Unshaken. Unapologetics. Unmoved. 3:27 p.m. The vote passed. 5-4. Craig was gone. So were 2 others. And Maya? Maya didn't smile. She simply gathered her things, shut the folder, and turned to the board. This company doesn't need a hero. It needs memory, and mine is long. Then she walked out. Not down the service elevator, but through the main hall, through the place that once laughed at her coffee-stained blouse. Now, they watched her pass, and no one said a word. Not because they feared her, but because they finally saw her. The glass doors closed behind her. No applause, no music, no fanfare, just silence and footsteps. Maya walked the hallway slowly. Every step echoed off the marble. Every gaze that met hers looked away just a beat too late. She didn't walk like a victor. She walked like someone who knew the war wasn't over. Only the battle. By the time she reached her mother's office, her hands were shaking. Not from fear, from release. Veronica was waiting by the door, holding a manila envelope. "They're cleaning house," she said. One of the VPs already offered to resign quietly. HR is requesting oversight from legal. The press is asking for a quote. Maya didn't reach for the envelope. "I'm not staying," she said. Veronica blinked. "You fought this hard to walk away?" "I fought this hard to walk free." A beat passed. Then Veronica nodded. "Your mother would have expected nothing less," Maya finished. "She didn't build this place so I'd sit in her chair. She built it so I'd know when to leave the room." That afternoon, Maya entered the hospital quietly. Simone Carter was awake, propped up, alert, tired but present. One look, and Maya nearly broke. But she didn't cry. She sat beside her mother and pulled out a folder. Not the incriminating one, a different one, printed in soft gold lettering. Red line, a new Carter Foundation. She opened it on Simone's lap. "I'm moving the community funding out of corporate," Maya said. "Independent board, public reporting, real people in charge." Simone studied the logo. It was familiar but different. Maya had kept the Carter name. But she'd drawn a new emblem, a road bending sharply upward. "Red line?" Simone asked, voice hoarse. Maya smiled. "You always said if a company crosses the red line, it stops being about people." Simone blinked once, slowly, then whispered, "Good. Nothing more needed." The following week, Maya returned to the Carter building one last time. No badge, just a box in her arms. Inside, a framed photo of her mother at the company's 10th anniversary. A dried rose from the office window. Her sticky notes with scribbled reminders. Veronica met her by the elevator. "No press?" "They camped out 2 days. Got bored when you didn't make a statement." Maya shrugged. "Good." They rode the elevator down together. At the lobby, Veronica stopped her. "Before you go," she handed Maya a USB drive. "Everything your mother wrote. Unpublished speeches. Notes. Her last company. Wide memo. She never got to send it." Maya slipped it into her coat pocket. "Thanks." Veronica hesitated. "What will you do now?" Maya looked out at the street sunlight hitting the sidewalk like a promise. "Rest. Rebuild. And maybe," she smiled faintly, "write something that doesn't need an NDA." 3 months later, a podcast episode went viral. Not about billionaire. Not about takeovers. It was titled, "The Intern Who Fired the Room." Voices soft, steady, no names mentioned, no companies tagged. Just truth. And millions listened. Back at Carter Global, changes rippled. The company didn't collapse. It restructured. The daycare reopened. The DEI team rehired. Transparency dashboards launched. Some called it a PR move, but others knew better. The culture shifted not because Maya stayed, but because she left after forcing everyone to look in the mirror. One last thing. There's a building, just south of Midtown. Not tall, not flashy. A sign on the door reads, "The Red Line Initiative." Inside, scholarships, startup microgrants, mental health support for Black professionals. No CEO name on the plaque, no marble lobby, just impact, just people, and at the back a desk, where a woman sometimes sits, in a thrifted white blouse and black slacks. Hair pulled back, no badge, no title, just purpose. Maya Carter. Not every revolution is loud. Some come dressed like interns, and leave like legacies. 6 months passed. Spring came back to the city in soft, gold waves. The kind of warmth that made cold buildings seem less cruel. Maya Carter hadn't stepped foot inside Carter Global since she left. Not as a consultant, not as a guest, not even for press. She had moved forward fully. The Red Line initiative had grown faster than she expected. From 3 rooms and folding chairs, it now filled 2 floors of a brownstone. There were job fairs, therapy sessions, emergency grants, and most importantly, stories. People came to tell theirs, and they stayed to listen to others. On a quiet Tuesday morning, her phone rang. Unknown number. She hesitated. Picked up. This is Maya. A pause. Then, it's Diane. Maya sat down. I didn't expect to hear from you. I didn't expect to be calling. Another pause. Then Diane's voice lowered. We need your help. Later that afternoon, Maya stood in front of Carter Global again. Sama glass doors. Same security badge scanner. But this time, she didn't flinch. A young receptionist buzzed hair in. No coffee stains, no whispers. Just clean air and fluorescent light. She was led upstairs to Conference Room C, not the boardroom, not the showy space with skyline views. This room was plain, almost human. Inside, Diane, 2 new board members, a nervous-looking VP of People Ops. Maya sat, crossed her legs, waited. We've had a situation, Diane began. A director was found using racially coded evaluations, denying promotions, undermining young Black hires. Maya blinked once. How long? Years. HR missed it, or ignored it. And now? The press got a hold of it. Staff morale's crashing. We're hemorrhaging talent. And you want me to? Not fix it, Diane said. Guide us. Quietly. Internally. With authority. Maya looked around the room. They weren't afraid. They were ashamed. Different. Still messy but not arrogant. She exhaled. And nodded. The next day, Maya returned. She didn't bring folders. Or fire anyone. She just asked to meet the staff. Not in offices. In break rooms. Stairwells. The old cafeteria where interns still warmed up frozen meals. She listened. Took notes. Didn't speak much. By week's end, she had one recommendation. Give people a voice. In writing, in policy, and in presence. They did. Town halls were launched. Pay transparency was published. A racial equity audit was run not by an internal team, but by an independent firm chosen by staff. Change didn't roar. It hummed. 2 weeks later, a young analyst stopped Maya in the elevator. Black, early 22nd, nervous smile. Can I just say thank you? Maya turned to her gently. For what? The girl shrugged. For not giving up on this place. Maya smiled, faint and real. I did, she said, but they kept calling. That night, Maya walked home past the old bookstore her mother used to love. She paused, went inside. Nothing had changed: the creaky floor, the dusty air, the overstuffed shelves. In the back, a table full of books about Black leadership, legacy, and labor. She picked up one, titled, Daughters Who Lead. Inside, a quote from Simone Carter. Justice isn't always loud. Sometimes, it walks in wearing flats, with a pen in hand, and a plan. Maya closed the book. Didn't cry. Just smiled. And whispered, Hi, Mom. At Redline, things kept growing. A new satellite office opened in Detroit. Another was being scouted in Atlanta. People asked Maya to run for office. She declined. They offered her book deals. She ignored them, not because she didn't care, but because she wasn't done listening. Sometimes, she returned to Carter Global not for audits or cleanups, but to sit in the back row of town halls and watch. Once, a young white intern spilled coffee on the floor. He panicked, flushed red. A Black executive calmly handed him a napkin. No worries, just coffee. And Maya smiled, because some cycles don't end with fire. They end with learning, with passing the mic. with walking away and trusting that the space you cleared stays open. And this time it did. It started with an email. Subject line: flagged expense, possible legacy code error, sent from Compliance Intern 5 at carterglobal.org. Time: 11:48 p.m. The intern had only been there a week. Her name was Jordan Fields. Coxie Cummenta Coxie. HBCU grad. First job, first cubicle. She didn't know the politics, didn't know the history. She just knew something looked off. And she clicked send. The next morning, her inbox was empty. No reply. No thank you. No, we'll look into it. Just silence. She almost let it go. Almost. Until she heard whispers in the stairwell. Two older analysts. One said, "They found another one, hidden under a vendor shell." The other, "This stuff's from back before the cleanup. Thought they purged all that." Jordan blinked. Before the cleanup? 3 days later, a folder landed anonymously in her drawer. No note, just a sticky tab. Page 12. Look closer. Inside, records. 10 vendor codes, all marked inactive. But money, recent money, was still moving through them. To consultants. To development projects. To public wellness activations that didn't exist. Someone was laundering funds. And using the shadows of old corruption to do it. Jordan didn't know what to do. Until someone knocked gently on her desk. An older woman. Short locks. Kind but sharp eyes. "Veronica Kim," she said. "Chief of Staff." Jordan blinked. I wasn't." "You saw something," Veronica said calmly. "Now we help you follow it." That afternoon, Jordan was taken 2 floors below the archive room to a space most staff didn't know existed. Legacy systems cold storage. Outdated servers, manual logbooks, dusty security footage reels. And in the back, a locked metal cabinet. Inside, a box labeled 2022, discontinued accounts, internal memo only. Jordan opened it slowly. What she found wasn't just data. It was a signature. A name. Elliot Graves. Board chair. The man Maya had exposed 6 months ago. Except this document was signed 2 weeks ago. He wasn't just gone. He was still inside. Veronica moved fast. She called Diane, HR, internal risk, Maya. But there was one problem. Maya didn't answer. She was on a media blackout traveling between Detroit and Atlanta, rolling out Redline. No interviews, no calls, no press. She had made that boundary clear. Veronica hesitated, then typed one line. "We found him in the system, she needs to know." 2 days later, Maya stood in front of the Carter Global building again. Not as a warrior, not as a guest, but as a watcher. The glass doors no longer rattled her. The lobby no longer felt haunted. But the ghost was still there. Jordan met her in the archives. Eyes wide, voice steady. "I followed the codes. They loop through a server in Jersey, reroute through an IP in Belize. He's funding something, but it's not clear what." Maya asked just one question. "Who else knows?" Jordan hesitated. "I sent it to IT. And? My access was revoked 30 minutes later." Maya didn't raise her voice. She just looked at Veronica. "Pull the backups. Use your keycard. I'll handle the rest." Veronica paused. "You're not on payroll." "I don't need to be. I'm legacy." And with that, Maya walked back into the boardroom. Empty. Dim. But still echoing with everything it used to mean. She stood at the window, looking down at the city. Then turned on the overhead projector. Clicked through the slides Jordan had made. And waited. The next morning, every board member received an unmarked envelope. Inside, a single flash drive. Label: "The system is not clean." No threats. No accusations. Just evidence. And choice. Some resigned quietly. Some fought back. But the system began to break again. Because rot doesn't vanish when you fire people. It waits. It hides. It replicates. And this time, Maya didn't burn the house down. She empowered the interns. Jordan Fields was offered a full-time role. Declined. Instead, she joined Redline and started a project called Ghost Audit, a digital tool designed to trace unethical legacy code embedded in large systems. Maya backed it with a quiet smile. Because justice, this time, wasn't about firing anyone. It was about watching the walls. Systems don't change because someone made a speech. They change because someone keeps watching. Even after the crowd leaves, even after the victory dance fades, even when no one remembers the coffee, because someone always remembers the code, and someone always checks page 12. They called it quiet justice. No press conferences, no termination memos framed on LinkedIn, no boardroom applause, just silence, and then empty chairs. 6 of them: resignations, investigations, voluntary transitions. The press called it the second sweep. Internally, it had a different name: Echo Protocol, designed by Jordan, sanctioned by Diane, shadow led by Maya. It was simple. Every quarter, the bottom layers of Carter Global interns, receptionists, janitorial staff, temp hires were given secure access to report system gaps, blind spots, code ghosts, and every report triggered a peer-driven audit team made up of people outside the exec layer. Power had shifted, not upward, but outward. In a basement 2 blocks from the main HQ, a room buzzed with old laptops and pizza boxes. The Echo team, all under 30, all paid through a new grant, the Carter Futures Fund. They weren't employees, they were sentinels, and when a new anomaly pinged the system, they moved fast. It came on a Wednesday, 3:03 a.m. A procurement code flagged for vendor recertification. Normal, except it traced back to a company that no longer existed. Maya's old enemy. Marsh and Wilkes Advisory shut down during the first audit sweep. But now, active again, under a new name, WMA, Integrated Equity. Same initials, new branding, same address in Delaware. The Echo team dug deeper. Within 12 hours, they had mapped a web. Shell companies, rebranded subsidiaries, and most chilling of all, recruitment targeting early career Black professionals, offering fake diversity consulting gigs. They weren't just laundering money anymore. They were laundering optics. Maya reviewed the report in her apartment. Midnight, rain tapping on the windows. She lit a candle, always did when something dark resurfaced. Veronica called. "Have you seen it?" "Yes," Maya said. "What now?" Maya looked at the wall photos of Redline participants, letters from scholarship recipients, a drawing from a child whose mom now worked full-time thanks to a grant. Then she answered, "We go wieder." The next day, Redline went public with their first national initiative, Invisible Hands, a public database of corporate laundering networks, built by the Echo team, audited by a third party, searchable by name, code, and zip code. It wasn't pretty. It wasn't polished. But it was true. And it named names. Not to destroy them, but to stop the lie. The backlash came loud. News anchors accused Redline of being radical. Former board members called it personal vendetta activism. Maya didn't flinch. She simply posted one statement: "We don't accuse. We reveal. If the shoe fits, stop running and try accountability instead." The post hit 3 million shares in 2 days. But behind the scenes, the danger grew. Someone was watching the Echo team. Encrypted servers were pinged by foreign IPs. Phishing attempts. Shadow funders offering donations with strings. And Jordan? She was followed. Once, on a Thursday, she noticed the car too late. But nothing happened. Still, she reported it. And Maya made a decision. "Go dark," she told the team. "Until we reroute everything offshore. Nobody touches this until the new firewall is in." "But we lose momentum," one analyst said. Maya looked at Jordan and answered softly, "We lose one of you, we lose everything." Weeks passed. Redline tightened. The Echo team restructured. But something had changed. The system was watching them now. Maya knew this chapter wasn't about her. It was about what she had built, and who she trusted to carry it. So she stepped back, publicly, and elevated Jordan as director of Echo Integrity. Still quiet, still fierce. On the day of her promotion, Jordan walked into the same stairwell where she first heard whispers months ago. It was empty, but she smiled anyway, because the ghosts weren't in the walls anymore. They were on the run. And Maya? She took the train to DC. Alone. A letter in her bag, an invitation from a House subcommittee on ethical tech oversight. Not for a testimony, but for a blueprint. Redline wasn't just a non-profit now. It was a model. She stepped off the platform into sunlight. No badge, no title, just purpose. As always, because justice doesn't retire. It multiplies. Silently, systematically, one echo at a time. By year's end, Redline wasn't a pilot anymore. It was a movement. 4 cities, 12 offices, over 150, zero audit request processed. The ECHO protocol had been adopted in 3 Fortune 500 companies, 2 universities, 1 city government. Jordan Fields became a symbol. Not in the loud way. She still walked to work, still packed her own lunch, still kept a photo of her grandmother tucked inside her notebook. But everyone knew her name now. And with that name came shadows. The first report hit quietly. An anonymous claim that a staffer inside ECHO had manipulated a transparency audit to protect a corporate partner. Jordan reviewed the file 3 times. The IP was clean. The code checks out. But the ethics? Too close to the line. The partner in question, Rivton Systems, a funder of Redline's Chicago expansion. And suddenly, the media spun faster than the facts. Redline betrays its own ethics. Transparency giant, under scrutiny. Is ECHO just another corporate puppet? Jordan didn't sleep that week. Not because of the guilt, but because of the noise and the silence that followed from inside. Staff avoided her eyes. Meetings were tense. Slack messages shorter. Trust had shrunk, quietly, like a sweater after rain. She held a town hall. Spoke plainly, authentically. If ECHO fails to investigate itself with the same rigor it demands from others, then we are the very system we were born to fix. They clapped, but something was off. Because clap don't fix shifts. And this was a shift. Veronica noticed first. She met Jordan at a corner cafe, no laptops, no folders. Just hot tea and one question. Have you called Maya? Jordan shook her head. She left for a reason. She left for you. Jordan stirred her cup. The silence between them said more than words could. 2 days later, Maya called her. No preamble. Just, walk with me. They met at the sculpture garden near Redline's original HQ. Maya wore no makeup. No team. Just a scarf, a pen, and a file in her hands. They walked slow. Jordan spoke first. You gave me something people think they want but don't know how to hold. Maya nodded. That's because transparency isn't light. It's a blade. Jordan looked ahead. I think I failed. Number you hesitated. That's different. And if the system eats itself from the inside? Maya stopped walking. Then you name it. Even when it's wearing your t-shirt. A beat. Then Maya handed her the file. Inside, a detailed account of Rivton's influence operations across 3 nonprofits, none of whom had named it publicly. Until now. I kept this. I shouldn't have. I was afraid it'd discredit the cause. Jordan looked up. You're handing it to me? Number, I'm trusting you to do what I didn't. That night, Jordan published an open letter. Title, When Accountability Starts at Home. No victim card. No PR language. Just truth. She disclosed the timeline. Named the partner. Announced an independent inquiry not led by ECHO, but by an external committee selected by frontline staff. The fallout was immediate. Rivton pulled funding. 1 board member resigned. But something else happened too. The noise stopped, and in its place came listening. 3 months later, ECHO relaunched under a new operational framework. Peer-led ethics review, rotating oversight, mandatory pause cycles for all staff. It wasn't perfect, but it breathed. And for the first time in weeks, Jordan did too. Maya never reappeared on the front page. She didn't need to, because the most powerful leaders don't hold the mic. They build the stage. And Jordan? She didn't want to be Maya 2.0. She wanted to be a version of truth that could survive itself. One morning, an intern named Devin, first week on the job, spilled a soda on Jordan's keyboard. Panicked, flushed red. She just laughed. Relax, she said. Transparency means you don't have to be perfect, just honest. Devin exhaled and smiled, because that's the thing about systems. They don't change when we expose them. They change when we refuse to become them. Redline had spread like a quiet storm, not just across U.S. cities, but overseas. By the time the first email arrived from Bogota, it was already 11:12 p.m. for Maya. The sender, echolatin@redline.org. Body, we launched ECHO protocol here. It's uncovering corruption at the municipal level, but the system is being co-opted by local power brokers. Can you advise? She paused the subway at 14th Street. Power broker. 3 words that meant leverage. And danger. Within 2 weeks, Redline had active chapters in Bogota, Nairobi, Mumbai, intern-led, peer-audited, community-funded. They were adapting the model, running local audits, transparency dashboards, echo labs, and thriving, until they weren't. In Nairobi, regional media reported, echo audits used to rally support for corrupt counselors. In Mumbai, whispers circulated. Activists behind echo were receiving funds from shell NGOs tied to the same corporations they targeted. Redline's headquarters received anonymous videos showing echo laptops planted inside campaign offices, screenshots of Slack channels being manipulated under echo branding, a campaign of public hate, social media troll farms smeared foreign meddlers. Maya watched the threads unravel, but she also saw the opportunity. She flew first to Bogota, met with Valentina Cruz, head of Echo Latin. They sat in a rooftop cafe. Rain spotted the concrete below. Valentina said, "This model gives so much hope, but our governments are using it for optics now." Maya listened. "What do you need?" Valentina took a breath. "We need context. We need training. We need a global charter." The next 2 weeks were a blur. Redline partnered with NGOs in Colombia, Kenya, and India. A virtual global Echo Summit was convened. Haimui Echo chapters, 30 civil society observers, 5 international funders, Maya and Jordan as facilitators. They drafted the Echo Global Charter outlining mandatory local governance, transparent funding source, annual audit of the auditors, Redline safe space protocol for whistleblowers under threat. The charter was not just policy, it was a lifeline. But crafting policy isn't enforcing it. And the backlash came. 1 week after the summit, the Mumbai chapter was raided. Kenya saw Echo volunteers arrested. Bogota's director was forced into hiding. Jordan called, "We need a global shield." Maya replied, "Then let's build one." Over the next month, Redline and its partners executed. Global Emergency Legal Fund in 12 hours. Bail and AtNet offered to arrested Echo members. Secure VPN network anonymized Echo communication for at-risk chapters. International watch list. If a local gov disrupted Echo operations, it would be flagged to global watchdogs, media, funders. And for the first time, Echo Protocol wasn't just about exposing rogue companies. It was defending its defenders. 9 months later, at the second global summit, on stage in Nairobi's convention center, Jordan took the mic. Echo repairs had become matters of survival. She said, "Our message traveled quiet. Across time zones, cultures, languages. But so did the threats. We built Echo so that intern voices could be heard. Now, we shape a reality where those voices can't be silenced. This isn't just about accountability. It's about solidarity." She paused. A young volunteer from Bogota stepped forward. "My city used to fear corruption. Now, we audit it with hope." And back in New York, Maya watched the live stream at dawn. Light spilled into her apartment. She didn't smile. She exhaled and whispered, "This Echo, it's not just mine. Because justice once unleashed doesn't stay local. It ripples across borders, across systems, until all the little voices become a global song." 5 years have passed since the Bogota summit. Redline's modest headquarters in Brooklyn feels quieter now, its storm of expansion consolidated into steady, resolute purpose. Jordan Field sits behind the same wooden desk where the Echo Protocol began. She's older, steady. Her eyes have seen more global dashboards, encrypted threats, solidarity lines connecting continents. A map on the wall pinned with red threads traces Echo chapters in over 50 cities. From Lisbon to Jakarta to Lagos. Tonight, the world sends her a ripple, an encrypted notification, glitch detected in Lion Echo node. Hearts sink. Moments later, a message from Valentina Cruz in Bogota. Redline's French partner, Transparency Europe, was just dissolved. Officials say they found evidence of coordination with extremist entities, entire audit archives seized. Beneath it, a single, heavy line. "They used our dashboard visuals to discredit us." Jordan exhales slow, pressing palms flat on the desk. She types back, "We convene at first light." Maya sees the note pop up. No words, just the map. Morning at Red Line HQ. The boardroom buzzes. Faint chatter in French, English, Arabic subtitles running across television carols. The silence now hums with urgency. In-person representatives from Lion Chapter, Lisbon, Nairobi, Bangalore, scattered around the table. Maya sits across from Jordan, calm and determined. The Lion director, Emily, speaks first. They accused us of aiding extremist cells, used screenshots of Echo dashboards as proof. They said we manipulated data to create panic, undermine public trust. Her hands tremble. Jordan steadies her with a look. Show me the evidence, Maya says. They walk through a demo. A fake Echo interface popped up. It was identical, copy, but not real. Malicious, designed to mirror their system, to erode faith, to dismantle. Valentina adds, this isn't just a shutdown, this is camouflage. They want global credibility to die. They do not panic. Instead, Jordan leans forward. We rebuild, now and better. First, the Reaffirmation Network. A live, non-tamperable broadcast system that tracks real scholarships, real reports, with timestamp and location metadata protected by blockchain. Second, the Legion of Integrity and Oversight Council, with rotating members from all chapters and independent civil society advocates. Third, the Mirror Shield program, a global alliance where each chapter mirrors backup data into another chapter's server cross-protection against seizure. Lion's dashboard will be hosted in Nairobi this week. Lisbon backs up Bangalore next month. Weeks roll onward. Within days, the world watches. News outlets frame it as tech coup from civil society, resilience in the face of coordinated digital disinformation. Redline blocks the fake dashboard IPs. Global cybersecurity partners trace the source, an oligarch-affiliated propaganda network. Global Echo chapters verify transparency. Shared dashboards display the Lion audits unchanged, public, and intact. Emily posts a final message from Lion. They wanted to erase us, but this is our proof. Months later, Jordan addresses a packed auditorium in Lisbon, a mosaic of human rights advocates, tech leaders, Echo volunteers, and freshly minted interns. She says, we won't win by fighting walls. We win by building bridges between cities, disciplines, and disciplines between hearts. If we ever lost each brick of trust inside a system, we must be the mortar. Maya watches from the back, subtle but proud. Back in Brooklyn, daylight filters through. Maya and Jordan stand in the sculpture garden near Redline's HQ. Quiet conversation between them. Maya, you built Atlas. But Atlas isn't burdened, they just hold up the sky. Jordan, some days I think the sky's too big. But then I remember, it's not mine to hold. It holds itself through the architecture we leave behind. A gust of wind stirs a page from Jordan's notebook charting chapters, timelines, future flags. She tucks it away, because justice doesn't end with one city, one campaign, or one system. It becomes architecture, quiet, reinforced, living supporting structures beyond its own vision. And this is legacy. The corridors of Redline HQ moved slower now. The buzz of global expansion softened into a constant pulse, steady, purposeful, resilient. Jordan Fields walked these halls, her footsteps echoing off the mural wall, a timeline of Echo chapters, each pin representing a city, a story, a life. 5 more cities had joined Cairo, São Paulo, Vancouver, Manila, and Helsinki. But tonight wasn't about conquest. She stood under that mural, late, reviewing a message from Helsinki. The Echo protocol there has just flagged a hidden subsidy from a Nordic energy company, funneled through municipal budgets. We need guidance and protection. Jordan paused. Legacy waters don't run still. She brewed herbal tea in her office. Next to it, an unopened letter from Maya. No sender line, no return address. She opened it. When waters run deep, rivers form. Trust them, M. The next day, she convened the Echo Council. Representatives from all chapters online. She read the Helsinki alert. Pause. Then, we're not draining a swamp, we're charting a river. They mapped out a cross-regional shield, pairing Helsinki with Toronto for data redundancy. A cultural ethics exchange, where chapters share local norms to prevent echo chambers. The establishment of continuity guardians, volunteers, often alumni, who commit to periodic check-ins, field audits, systems reviews. These services weren't flashy, not newsworthy, but crucial. Weeks passed. In Vancouver, an Indigenous intern discovered logs of energy subsidies directed toward private landowners, threatening discreetly embedded social programs. In Manila, a university chapter flagged altered student aid data masking misappropriations. In Cairo, Echo uncovered that a developer funded Echo-like audits as PR but then silenced whistleblowers. The waters kept moving. At year-end, Redline hosted its third global summit, this time hybrid, in Lisbon. Everyone looked different. Younger, world-weary, but hopeful. Jordan opened with one line: "We're not mapmakers, we're navigators, because the currents shift underneath us, all the time." She pointed at the mural. Weeks later, it filled beyond one wall. It became a widescreen wall of water as cities, issues, patterns, systems unfolding like ripples. After the summit, in the sculpture garden by HQ, Jordan found Maya waiting by the fountain water in motion. No fanfare, just presence. Jordan sat beside her. "You wanted to build architecture." Maya nodded. "I also wanted it to flow." They watched water spill over the ledge, cascade, then settle. Can rivers thrive from just a drop? They're born from drops. And then Maya handed her another letter. No envelope, just paper, folded thrice. "You've become the water you were trying to trace. Keep running." Jordan exhaled, but not from exhaustion, from realization. Epilogue years later, around the world, children draw murals of flowing rivers in Echo Hub schools. Volunteers watch those walls, their hearts anchored in checking not just the codes but the currents. And in a modest Brooklyn home, Jordan pins one more city to the timeline wall. She stares and whispers, "We're still running." The world had moved on. Redline HQ in Brooklyn was quieter but never silent. The glowing pins on the mural wall had grown into constellations. Not just cities anymore, but thematic campaigns. Climate audits in coastal towns. Disability access transparency in European bureaucracies. Land rights tracking in Southeast Asia. Redline had become a platform, a reflection, a pulse of global civic accountability. Jordan sat at her desk, reading a message that glowed red. Climate funds for island infrastructure are being redirected to offshore accounts, called Resilience Trust Funds. The alert came from Kiribati. In the racks of the mural room conference space, Maya was already waiting, studying patterns on projected dashboards. "Trust funds," she whispered. Legacy waters never rest. Coordinates locked, they activated Echo Relay Phase. Regional Guardian Task Force volunteers from Oceania, New Zealand, and Australia pooled encrypted data and local satellite imagery. The Blue Audit Trail, a blockchain-based ledger logging contributions with immutable timestamps and donor origins. Anchor grants, small grants for local activists to go public, safely. Within 3 days, the campaign was live. In Suva, the case broke. Once trusted Resilience Trust had become a conduit for developers profiting from climate aid. The coverage went global. Redline's uptime soared. Donors withdrew. Local governments issued audits. And Jordan? She went first to Vanuatu. A flash drone feed showed a handwritten sign. "We trusted too much." A man waited an Echo volunteer named Kenny, barefoot and steady. "Thank you," he said. He showed her coastline new infrastructure rising, built on stolen funds. She knelt and pressed her palm on the warm asphalt. "We fix this," she promised. Back at HQ, during December's final town hall, Maya spoke last. Justice isn't about perfection. It's about plumbing the deep, still earth for bubbles of truth. When people trust water, they preserve it. Behind her, screens flickered with live updates. Reconstruction underway in Suva. Senegal mobilizing climate fund trackers. A UK university launching echo units for environmental lobbying. 2 months later, the mural wall had new additions. A stylized wave from Kiribati. A rising sun from Vanuatu. An interwoven harbor from Rotterdam. Jordan stood before it. Maya gently touched her shoulder. "We started with a drop. Now look how it gathers." Jordan exhaled. "Each pin is a life." And then Maya walked away silent, purposeful. Epilogue. Years later, Students study case files in classrooms from Wellington to Lagos. They debate data dashboards, design echo-like systems, and consider, how do you hold your systems accountable when your systems are everywhere? Meanwhile, somewhere in Redline's basement archives, a ledger rests. Entries from every chapter, every whistleblower, every ripple, waiting, because legacy is not just built, it's recorded. So one day, someone can trace it back to every drop. A full decade had passed since that first coffee spill. Redline's Brooklyn HQ felt more like a temple now than an office. The mural wall had expanded beyond bricks, digitally projected constellations, each point pulsing with activity. Jordan watched from the gallery hall. Interns, new staff, and ambassadors, people who never knew the Genesis story, passing by with reverence. She had pressed her palm on the warm mural, where Boston once marked the first Echo prototype. Now it had branched into a global web, and tonight, they were holding the first watershed summit for second-generation Echo leaders. Maya entered quietly. No media, no fanfare, just a presence that felt like gravity. They gathered in a circular amphitheater, projected maps, data visuals, nodes expanding, dialogues streaming. A young voice took the center. Nyla, from Lagos Echo. When I first joined Echo, I thought the hardest part was standing up to systems. Turns out, the hardest part is standing up to your own doubt. Applause. Then Hiroshi from Tokyo. We used the protocol to fight data manipulation. But in the process, we realized the data we trusted needed ethics built into its code, not just its interface. They nodded. The tone was different now. No defensiveness. Only responsibility. Because this generation inherited Echo not as a tool, but as a trust. At the back, Maya watched Jordan moderating panels. Thoughtful, steady, less photo op, more empathy. The last session was a hands-on workshop. Legacy Trace Labs. Groups of young leaders logged into decentralized dashboards, checking archive integrity, simulating data validation, forging new security norms. After, Jordan found Maya near the fountain. Jordan, they're doing more than echoing the past. Maya, they're expanding its melody. Jordan turned. She touched a digital pin on the wall. Jakarta, Seoul, Accra. They trust, even when the system doesn't. Maya smiled. That's the watershed. Epilogue. Months later, an anthropologist publishes a paper. The Echo Effect. Civic Data Trust as Cultural Heritage. Schools include Echo case studies in curricula. Public servants reference Echo framework in legislation. And somewhere, a teenager downloads the Echo app, not for the data, but to ask, if I found something wrong, would I have echoes behind me? Because that's the legacy. Not a name, but a river of trust. The rain in Brooklyn was heavier than usual. Thick, insistent. Not a drizzle, not a storm. Something in between, like a warning before a shift. Jordan stood by the glass wall at Redline HQ, watching droplets trail downward like memory. This was her last week as executive director. Creed had been nominated as interim successor. Not publicly, not yet. But internally, the board was unanimous. And so was Maya. He doesn't just understand data, Maya had said. He understands restraint, and that's rarer. In the center of the war room, Creed sat cross-legged on the floor. Surrounded by case maps, local audits, language frameworks, and a circle of interns coding multilingual trust layers into Echo Light. No command, no hierarchy. He didn't lead with posture. He led by listening. That afternoon, Jordan called a walk. No cameras, no team, just her and Creed, down by the old sculpture garden where the Redline mural had once started. The new garden had grown vines now curled across QR plaques where every chapter's origin story was etched. They paused at one. Echo Bogota, justice must breathe, not burn. You know, Jordan said, when we started this, we thought data was the weapon. It's not? Creed asked. No, she said, looking up at the vines. It's the mirror. Creed was quiet. Then, I'm scared. Jordan smiled. Good, that means you respect what it holds. What if I get it wrong? You will, but if you own it before the world can weaponize it, Echo survives. They kept walking. Creed reached into his bag, pulling out a folded letter. Handwritten. He passed it to her. It's from Gene, the boy from the gala. He wrote about building an Echo lab in his school. Jordan unfolded it. Read slowly. each word thick with purpose. At sundown, Maya joined them. 3 generations of the same pulse. They didn't talk much. They just watched the last of the light bleed through the garden, turning the mural glass into a river of gold. You know, Maya said, legacy isn't the building. It's who unlocks the door after you're gone. Creed nodded. Then I'll leave the door open. 1 month later, Creed stepped onto the stage at the Global Summit in Jakarta, the largest ECHO event ever. 60 nations, 100 local chapters, 30 citizen-driven bills passed from ECHO-led transparency. He didn't read a speech. He read 5 messages. From janitors, from students, from whistleblowers, from undocumented organizers, from teachers who used ECHO dashboards as case studies for ethics. And then he said, "We don't ask for your trust. We just give you ours." In Brooklyn, Jordan watched the live stream from her apartment. No applause, just a small closed-mouth smile. Then a whisper, "He's ready." In a small office drawer, Jordan left behind a worn-out ID badge, a map of the first 7 chapters, Maya's first handwritten note, "Some storms walk in quietly," a sticky note with Creed's name circled, underlined, with 2 words beneath it. Anchor, flow, because legacy isn't what stays. It's what moves when you're gone. And redline, it was moving, still, softly, like water that never forgot where it began. Redline's Jakarta summit ended. The glow of success cooled to steady embers, captured in headlines, tweets, and hearts worldwide. But leadership is never just about celebration. A new alert pinged midnight in Brooklyn. ECHO node anomaly detected funding discrepancies Rio de Janeiro. Creed stared at the dashboard. Live, figures, funds labeled for public health, gone, diverted, steered toward a private medical network with murky ownership. He felt the weight settle. A summons. At 6 a.m., he convened a secure video huddle. Participants: Creed, Jordan, Brooklyn, Valentina, Bogota, Nia, Lisbon, and Rajiv, Mumbai. They reviewed a map of 85,000 entries. Rajiv, every figure lines up same as Suva, Cambridge chain laundering, local hospital contractors, shell accounts. Valentina, social media already has shady influencers sharing the fake reports. People believe the spin. Creed exhaled. We act fast. We do not wait for permission. He arranged for emergency transparency release redline, published the flagged flowchart with verified sources. Collaborative legal channels partnering with global NGOs to file injunctions and block fund misuse. Public first messaging through local leaders, ECHO volunteers, real stories of public health impact. Meanwhile, Jordan flew in to offer support watch over Creed and the global ECHO network. Days later, in Rio, media swarm, protests, a hospital director framed as the scapegoat, ECHO volunteers losing security clearance. Creed came. He walked the corridors of the impacted community clinic. He met nurses who showed him records still unaltered by data diversion. He met patients who trusted Redline because ECHO had once saved their children's care. That night, he stood before the crowd at a mobile health center. Funds meant to save lives got lost. Our system failed, but I promise you Redline will not fail you again. He announced a new initiative, ECHO Repair Fund, redirected budgets, matched by global partners, ensuring community clinics aren't left vulnerable. He trusted the people. Back in Brooklyn, Maya received word, not as a press release, but from a nurse's text. "You saved our clinic tonight." She smiled. Weeks passed. Rio stabilized. Press turned from scandal to applause. Creed continued reinforcing ECHO safeguards. Quarterly crisis drills simulating attacks or data misuse. Frontline docket, a live encrypted feed where affected communities report anomalies directly. Term limits for ECHO Council admins preventing power consolidation. At Redline HQ, Creed stood before the mural. His pen pulsed quietly. 47 countries. And he added a new one. Rio de Janeiro. Jordan approached, quietly. "Jordan, you did it, Creed." "Creed, not me, all of us." Silence stretched into a smile. That evening, at a small celebration in the sculpture garden, Creed held a flask of red grape juice echo of Maya's tradition. He lifted it to Jordan and Maya. To legacy that bends, not breaks. They clinked glasses. No speeches. Just presence. Epilogue. In a Rio schoolyard, Children run a mini Echo on tablets tracking their own funds, building trust from the ground up. Creed watches through a live stream in Jakarta. And within the Echo protocol, another ripple starts. A new chapter,